All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Morning Huddle Construction Show. I'm Stacy Holsinger. Chad is out today on a business trip, but we have a great guest today, Matt McCaffrey, which I'll introduce to you in a second. We're going to talk about the closing the skilled trades gap, which, from watching the show, this is a passion of mine. I've been working on a lot of initiatives over the past 20 years when it comes to this topic. And I just wanted to share with you first a little bit about what that kind of looks like for me, and especially in the Maryland area. So, Careers and Construction Day events I've been hosting in the public school systems, at charter schools, community colleges, and universities in Maryland and Pennsylvania for the past 20 years. And we've had great conversations with counselors, teachers, students. One of the things with the career counselors that we always get in the industry is, the career counselors don't push the trades enough. But if you get in the school system and you talk to their career counselors, they're already so overwhelmed. Half the time, they'll meet with one student or a student once a year, and that's if the student wants to come in and approach them and talk about careers in construction. So they really need our industry support to get into the system for contractors to get into the school and tell them about all the opportunities in construction. So that's one big thing. But we've been working with MCC, that is the Maryland Center for Construction, Education, and Innovation, for the past couple of years. And we've been working on Career and Construction Day events that is really taking off. So it's not asking the contractors necessarily to bring your people to the Career and Construction Days. We host these days for you. And we ship all the students in, thousands of kids that are already at least a little bit interested in careers in construction, to one event, whether it's, outside the Ravens football stadium or a local baseball stadium. And we have interactive activities. 2 years ago, we had one event. Now we have 4 events a year, and it's really done wonders. I believe this template started in New Hampshire, and her event just keeps blooming and growing. So we did the same thing in Maryland. So this is something that you can carry from state to state that's really working to get people excited about careers in construction. The other thing that's kind of popping off, and I believe it started in Alabama, is called the World of Work event. And this isn't just careers in construction. This is state to state. They're trying to get more students certified in something before they graduate high school. I know for the state of Maryland, they want 46% of their high school graduates certified in something before they graduate. So the World of Work event is huge. They piloted the program that, again, it's a template that you can take state to state, but in Maryland, they piloted this past year. I think it was March or April, and we had 3,000 kids show up. We had interactive activities. We had a dedicated building on the community campus just geared towards construction careers. And we had 3,000 kids roll in, and it was great. We had so many wonderful conversations. And next year, because it went so well, and it's a free event for any contractor to participate in, they're aiming to get 10,000 kids. We're doing these initiatives because we don't have shop classes in the local school systems anymore. They were removed in the 60s and 70s. And we don't have enough funding to do these types of things. So there's a lot of people that are working in silos to try to get the word out there about careers in construction. And then just lastly, the other initiative is I'm a part of the Harbor Freight's Tools for School Leadership Lab, and they have certain cohorts every single year, which they look for industry folks, CTE instructors, middle school, elementary school, high school, community college, university, you name it. We have union instructors or trainers, and we all get together a few times a year, and we usually pitch a pilot program. As you know, my chat CT came through that, and helping through internships and connecting contractors to students through careers in construction. There's all different things going on through that wonderful group nationwide, and it's just a shame that we're kind of working in silos. We really should work more together because there's all these cool initiatives, whether it's the Grit Foundation, where they have an RV and they're traveling from state to state with their lesson plans, and they're going into fabrication shops or on the job site and teaching students different things, and where the contractors don't have to develop the lesson plans, they come to you. Or there's something called the career cruiser that is pretty much an RV with all the educational stuff in the RV, and it can show up on the job sites or school sites to teach kids. So a lot of exciting things going on. And with that, I'm more on the sub level because I worked for a mechanical contractor, and most of my clients are small GCs or subs. So I'm trying to encourage them to, get more involved in the workforce development. And I know it's hard for them because they're smaller contractors, and the bigger fish, have more resources. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Matt McCaffrey to the show. And you work for Skanska, so if you could please just tell us, what your role is at Skanska, and what exciting projects are you guys working on, and what trades do you self-perform?
Yeah, good morning, Stacy. Thank you for having me. So my role at Skanska, I'm a vice president account manager, and essentially I handle kind of everything from business development to operations and kind of make sure that we are successful from a profit perspective, safety perspective, and quality perspective on our projects. And so, an easier way to think of this is I'm just a PM who's hung around too long, and now I get to sign the contracts instead of execute them. So I've been with Skanska for 23 years, so kind of held every position from project engineer on up to where I am now. So
Nice.
yeah, so Skanska, obviously you mentioned, is one of the larger construction companies in the country. Everything from small projects to mega jobs, and we kind of represent from coast to coast. I think we have 30 offices across the country, and our business represents both commercial construction, vertical construction, as well as the civil side of things. So we have two kind of business units in the United States that do construction, day to day. So anything from healthcare to higher education, we do K through 12, parks, data centers, you name it. I think when we find the right type of project, we can execute it from a construction standpoint.
Is there any notable projects that you're working on that kind of stand out, or like past projects?
Sure. So I'm in San Antonio. I'm pretty partial to work that we do here. We just did an upgrade to the Alamo Dome for the 2025 men's Final Four that was held here last closer to your neck of the woods. We've done the Meadowlands Stadium. We've done a bunch of hospitals that basically any hospital type you can think of at this point. And then we're definitely part of kind of the mission critical sector that's kind of growing, exponentially right now. So a few things there to
Yeah.
highlight.
So what type of work that do you self-perform?
So yeah, that's a good question. I think so. From coast to coast, our offices kind of have unique characteristics, and so in Texas we do kind of minor self perform. We do small projects, drywall, paint, ceilings, doors, general requirements type items. In other offices, specifically Florida and up in the Pacific Northwest, we do concrete and steel self perform. So we have relationships with the trade the trade contractors that do that, but also our own staff. And so that varies kind of office to office, but typically on the structural side and then kind of on the small interior finish stuff.
And then for those type of positions, how are you currently recruiting for those roles? I know we talked about things before, like if you could just touch on maybe the day of discovery or internship program, ready to work.
Sure. So, it's kind of an interesting, topic in that you mentioned, I heard your introduction talking about kind of working in silos. And I think a lot of times, we subcontract out a lot of our work, and it's easy to just say, well, that's a subcontractor problem. They have to deal with it. It's their workforce, figure it out. And I think that's definitely not the case. It needs to be everyone. everyone involved, whether that's the owner, the GC, the state and local government, federal government, subs, whoever it is. We need kind of everyone pulling in the same direction. And so the general contractor, whether they self perform work or not, has a role to play in that. And um, so the way we look at it is the biggest thing I think we can do early is expose people to construction careers early. Whether that's something on our side where they're going to be a project manager, superintendent, or they're going to be a pipe fitter, electrician, a drywall installer, floor installer, whatever it is. I think that the exposure to those careers and the possibility within them, the earlier that happens, the better. And so we do a variety of things. We obviously have an internship program where we bring people in. Recently, we've been doing these things called Day of Discoveries, and we have a local high school come out, bring juniors and seniors and anyone else that's interested. We tour them around the job site. So for some of them, it's the first time they've ever been on a project site, and it's eye opening in a lot of ways to what happens. And then we also have a section where we talk about what careers are possible in construction. We partner with our trade contractors to have, so we do a presentation. We have our HVAC and plumbing contractor typically give a short presentation, our electrician, our drywall sub, and any other of the key subs that want to have connectivity with these younger folks. And I think that's been really helpful to kind of have people have a better not just a better understanding of what a career in construction looks like, but what you can get paid, what you can benefits you have, how do you get into the field, who do you talk to. It just kind of provides a little bit of a leg up for that. And then for folks that hadn't considered construction as a career, it gives them an opportunity to ask questions, to see what a construction site looks like, to ask the question whether this is right for them.
Do you host these Day of Discoveries multiple times a year, or is it throughout the summer? And then how does a subcontractor get involved?
So we typically try to do it at least twice a year, depending on where projects sit and the involvement that our high schools want to have and our school districts want to have an availability that they have. So we want to try to do it with this kind of different areas of the city. We have a school here called Construction Careers Academy that we've worked with. That folks that already are thinking about construction. And then we're doing work with Comel ISD is an independent school district here. We're working for them as a contractor, but we're also we're looking to host a Day of Discovery. So as much as we can, I think, it's not a difficult thing to do on a Friday morning or something, to have the kids in, tour them around the job, get them, for some, a lot of times it's the first time they've had a hard hat or vest or safety glasses or gloves. So we give them a whole set of PPE to take home, and encourage them to reach out to us if they have questions. And then the subcontractors are typically subs that are on the project. We have connected with other subcontractors that aren't, but inevitably you see someone kind of coming out of the subs trailer after having talked to them after the presentation, looking for ways to get connected with that subcontractor.
Nice. So you've seen a lot of success with this in your internship program. Has people come to work for your subs or for Skanska after it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously tough to measure because you have kind of people kind of go off and do their own thing, and then a large, there's still a lot of people that want to go to college and pursue, even if in construction, they want to pursue construction management degree. So it's a variety. I think it's kind of one of those scenarios where interest in the construction field is kind of going to elevate the opportunities for everybody. And I think you know there's kind of a jarring statistic out there when they ask high school kids if they have interest in construction. I think it's like 3% say that they have an interest in the construction field. And I think if we can elevate that just a little bit, we're not talking a lot, that creates kind of access to a lot more people that could be filling these roles, whether they're at the GC level or at the sub level.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, we were talking about industry challenges, and I know when me and you were on the prep call, we were talking about in some regions, and I wanted to see what you thought about this because I get this on our channel on Chat CT all the time. People are comparing fast food restaurants and retail chains like McDonald's or Buc-ee's and saying that their starting salary rate and benefits are better than some of these trades when you first, I know we talked a little bit about Was it like carpentry or painting, like those type of trades? It's, when we're competing with that, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, it's a really, I think, difficult question. Acknowledging that, it's if there was a kind of silver bullet answer, we, have found it by now. That said, a couple things come to mind for me is one, you know, I I've always heard, you've heard always heard kind of like unskilled trades, and I don't think there's such a thing. We see, the drywall tape and float person is extreme. Like I couldn't do that in a million years, and it's more of an art than it is a science. And so same thing with carpentry. I think there's this perception out there that it's easy to do
Hmm.
and you can just jump right in. And having been in this industry for a while, I can tell you that our problems do not, from a quality perspective, do not typically start with MEP. It's because we don't necessarily have the skill and the skill sets in some of our finished trades or our framers or our roofing installers or whatever it is. And so I think there's that perception out there, first of all, that these aren't skilled trades. They are. They all are. And second of all, I think the problem we run into inevitably is the way that this work is contracted is usually competitive. And so you kind of are unfortunately, in kind of like a race to the bottom in a lot of cases. Like when there's a low number out there, everybody knows about it. They may know that that sub isn't capable of performing the work. They may not know that that sub is employing temp labor. They may not, but they got to be aware of the number. And so we have looked a lot to pick our subcontractors and help inform owners as far as the right subcontractors, the right labor pool to perform their work, and where they may be getting higher wages. The challenge for us is we're not, with some exceptions, obviously, most of the time we're not cutting the check to the worker.
Hmm.
We are subcontracting and we have to influence it that way.
Hmm.
The second thing I think that we've kind of had to, I don't want to say crack down on, but start understanding them better is the role of the independent contractor, especially kind of like the by piece, payment by square foot of tile or number of tiles installed or whatever it is, right? Where they're not getting overtime. There's questionable, are they covered by workers' comp? Those sort of things where it's not just the take home money, it's also the benefits or the overtime that they may be entitled to that they're not getting. And so I think small things like that. And then obviously, just being an advocate for our workers, I know that's kind of vague, but at the same time, our contract is the first one that gets signed with the client. It sets the tone a lot of times for how the work's going to be procured and how the workers are going to be compensated on the job.
I know we talked a little bit about supporting skilled trades beyond offering a livable wage. So you had some suggestions on like how you guys do childcare or pay for transportation, books. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, so two things. One, there's a lot of effort from the government, I'll say, in a lot of these places as well. And one thing we've seen locally here in Texas and in San Antonio is funding for development of skilled trades. And a couple things that kind of come up regularly when we're talking about this is, people want to be trained, they want to learn, they want to have upward mobility as far as their career goes. But they have kids. They may not have transportation. They may not be able to afford tools. They may not be able to afford books. Whatever it is, there's a lot of barriers, especially if you're starting from a place where you might not have much. And so, a couple things to kind of bring to know. One is, and this is broad support, right? The city of San Antonio approved a tax increase to fund something called Ready to Work SA, and that's looking to fill some of those gaps, not just provide the training, but also fill some of the gaps around that. The state approved money for Texas State Technical College, so there's this support for the trades in general, and to have people have opportunities to learn how to be a welder, how to do HVAC, how to be an electrician, all that stuff. But then also to connect them with the subcontractors. I think that's where we can play a pretty big role is how do we connect a workforce that's being developed and kind of, helped along by the government with trade partners that can hire them. And I think that sometimes is the missing link there. So in a lot of cases, we're participating in these programs that exist, but trying to connect people with those resources. Um, and again, that's why I kind of say, hey, the GC has a role, the subs, the government, everybody has a role to play in this.
So if somebody wanted to get start in the trades and there was these resources like childcare help or stipends, where does one start? Or like if they're having trouble with transportation, what help can they get there?
So, obviously, I know San Antonio, Texas, a little bit better than the rest of the country. So take that for the. I almost can almost guarantee that your local government or state government has some sort of program to support this. I think we've seen broad support kind of across the country, across the industry, certainly for these types of programs, even when put to the ballot. And so I would look at what the two places we see are, there's definitely trade schools that are again being developed, either exist or being developed. Community colleges have a lot of trade school opportunities that we've seen, at least locally here, programs for development of those type of skills. Local and state government, again, I can't speak for all 50 states at all, but certainly have resources that can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. I know transportation's one of the biggest barriers because some kids want to start at 16 if they can, and they don't have a driver's license, but they want to be able to get to apprenticeship court classes and things like that. So I didn't know if there was what was offered in that way. Is it like Uber rides or like a Metro card or things like that? Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
it's going to depend on the locality. I mean,
Yeah.
I think all of the above, depending on what people need. Absolutely.
So what else were we gonna okay, so creating job sites where subcontractors want to work. We talked a bit about this, and I just wanted to see how Skanska's working to create a job site where every subcontractor wants to be and show up.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a place where we can kind of have more sway, I guess, in this area. At the end of the day, I think construction has kind of an image problem. You know, you ask people what a construction site looks like, you get dirty, hot, um, and in some cases going back, harassment type situations. Like it's not, I think, a good image in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of that starts with how our project sites are set up and managed. And so we have made an effort to make it a place that people want to come. One is we're competing with talent, not just with our competition, but with the oil and gas industry, with a lot of cases, excuse me, facilities managers. There's a lot of other industries that use our skilled labor, and so they have options. And so even on a job site to job site basis, and so if you provide, I think, even some basic amenities, lunch tent, air conditioning where possible, food trucks, places that time and places to rest, get water. Like in San Antonio, as an example, we have a pretty brutal summer.
Hmm.
We have folks working out in the sun in a lot of projects for a long time, and we need to provide opportunity for them to get breaks, mandate it, provide even just shade in a lot of cases makes a difference. And so, in some of our bigger jobs, we have like I said, even air conditioned tents. But I think it's just kind of treating people like people. I think to some degree.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that goes a long way to make it a place where people don't feel like they're coming to a disgusting construction job site every day when they could, to your point, go get a job at Target or Bucky's or McDonald's for maybe even a couple bucks less an hour, but they don't have to deal with some of those.
What are you guys working to do to prevent burnout or overwork?
So that's one thing we talk to our trades about almost from the start of the job on is what does your work schedule look like? What is the maximum number of hours somebody can work? Where are they coming from? I mean, I think you've been with a subcontractor, you've seen second shift folks go from their first shift to their second shift and work 16 hours a day or more. And so we're trying to make sure we understand where our workforce is coming from, what their work schedule looks like, and how they're rotating staff to ensure that they're not. It's a fine line, right? We want to provide the opportunity for overtime, the people that enhance their paycheck, but at the same time, it has to be at their request, not necessarily because we're mandating it and the sub is mandating it. And so that's a discussion with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, as an example, mission critical jobs are very fast paced. They go quick. They use up a lot of people, and you're working most days. And so, how do we rotate our workforce? And that goes for everyone on the job. Construction management professional people to skilled labor to quality control, whatever it is. How do you rotate them so that they're not being burnt out? Because another part of the image issue that we have is you look at almost any statistic in construction as an industry that's not represented positively in it, whether that's mental health, whether that's substance abuse, all that stuff. And so we need people to take care of people physically and mentally and give them, paid time off at whatever that is, the ability to kind of reset and rest so that they can, when they're at work, they can be productive and not in mental or physical pain or stress.
Yeah, trying to change that culture. I know it's hard. What about harassment or bullying on the job site? How do you guys tackle that?
Yeah, so that's one thing I think that the industry has made some pretty good strides on from, you go back to the 50s or whatever it is, and kind of like catcalling and things like that. I do think that for us, it's a zero tolerance policy. I mean, it's not accepted in any way ever. And I know our competition is very much, I think, on the same page there. With that said, that hasn't really resulted in women entering the trades the way we would like to see. When you look at the possible trade pool, a pool of people coming out of high school or entering the workforce, and you're kind of missing half of them as even possibilities considering construction, that limits you pretty significantly. And so I think I looked something up over the weekend. I think it was about 3.5% of trade labor in the industry is women right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can do a much better job to attract women to roles in construction. I think that's happening on the construction management side, but it hasn't yet really trickled down into the trades. And I think that is, again, one area of growth where we can hopefully kind of make some progress to fill the shortage that we have.
Yeah. And then you touched a little bit on mental health or wellness, because that's also a big thing too. I see a lot of people talking about that, just, the energy drinks, the getting some fast food quick all the time out to eat. And then you have all these like overweight or unhealthy construction skilled trades workers and trying to bring in exercise and stretches and all that stuff and make healthier decisions. Do you have any programs like that that tackles mental or wellness?
Yeah, so we have what's called the Green Sticker program, and it's not unique to Skanska, but it's a mental health program that teaches our folks to kind of recognize and support folks that may be going through challenging times, whether that's up to and including kind of self harm and things like that. So we we've rolled that out in San Antonio and a bunch of other offices nationwide, and really supported our teams in, again, kind of like treat people like you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
If you see people that are struggling, figure out how to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always, it's not necessarily always the same thing. So from that side of the fence, from the mental health side of the fence, sometimes people just don't need to be at work, and we need to help figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah.
Folks should not be forced to, choose between stuff, dealing with things with their family, making a paycheck, or dealing with physical issues and a paycheck. And I think you've seen that in this industry where you got to come to work to make money, and that's not always a positive thing. So that Green Sticker program is kind of a way to teach our folks to recognize challenges in others, regardless of what position or role they are on the project, and to support them in whatever way they can. Now, we try to, on the physical side of things, I think it's tough because it's people making choices on a day-to-day basis. Like I can't claim to be the healthiest person in the world myself. I have more options, right? So with that said, I think it's it kind of, we do toolbox talks on personal health. We do stretch and flex in the morning, which every morning before every shift, which kind of, between kind of helping limber up
Mhm.
slightly, it also kind of gives you an opportunity to make sure everybody's kind of fit for duty that day. Look everybody in the eye. And then, we try to have opportunities for, again, people not just to go spend 10 minutes walking to lunch, eat something off the taco truck, and spend 10 minutes walking back to the job. So set our jobs up in a way that can be positive for our workforce. At the end of the day, we have one of our values is care for life. And I think that's more than just, it's more than just safety. It's caring about your fellow human beings and trying to influence in any way that you can. They go home with some energy
Mhm.
and are able to do things outside of work.
Yeah.
They're not affected
Not
by
so burnout as soon
work.
as you get home. Yeah, because I hear the divorce rates and everything are pretty high in construction too. By the time you get home, you're just like wiped out type of thing. So allowing for those breaks in mental health and the wellness programs. So as far as we I don't know if we touched on before, but is there anything you guys are doing to address language or tech barriers that are a little different? We've had people on the morning huddle over the past couple years, and so much has changed with technology from, apps that help translate. I still know some pretty big GCs that were still using Excel spreadsheets to translate with people in the field. And then now you have AI, but you have Google Translate and Chat GPT to help translate, which is not always accurate. But is there anything you guys are doing to help with those language barriers that might be helpful in sharing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. First of all, I think our a lot of our workforce here is Hispanic in Texas, and that's not unique to Texas, but we are very deep in the South here, and that that creates barriers sometimes between our management and the subcontractors management and the workers. And again, not only from a communication standpoint, but from kind of like a cultural standpoint of like people need to be unafraid to bring up issues if
Mhm.
they are not being paid appropriately, if they're not being, if there's safety issues, if they're being harassed, if they're being whatever it is. And I think a language barrier sometimes creates reluctance to do that,
Definitely.
especially when they're maybe using their boss as their translator. So we try to have folks that kind of represent our workforce working for us. To be candid,
Okay.
that may be bilingual. That can help kind of break through some of those silos that exist on the job. But it certainly is a challenge, and not just language wise, but culturally. I think there's very much this show up and work regardless of what else is going on
Mhm.
mindset in some of our workforce. And so, going to technology for just a minute, I think it's a double edged sword. We have taken a lot of steps to eliminate. I don't know that we have a job that has actual drawings anymore. We don't have the drawing table.
Everything's
You
on
can just kind of look.
tablets.
Everything's on tablets. Everything's electronic. Every notification, RFI, submittal is all exists in the cloud. All our safety planning and construction work plans, DHAs are all done electronically. So all that stuff exists now. This processes that used to be, paper, pen, and used to file in the mailbox in front of the job site are now done electronically. And so there's certainly been a group of our workforce that hasn't kept up with that,
Mhm.
especially folks that may have a lot of knowledge but have difficulty maybe leading crews now because they're not able to kind of figure that out, for lack of a better
Do you
term.
see when it comes to recruiting new people into the workforce, are they excited about this new technology and can they pick it up really quickly, or is there any barriers there?
No, I think we need to lean into it personally. I think, there are a lot of people that want to do things that have a tech nature to them, right? And I'm going to call them kids. It makes me feel old, but the
I
kids
know.
coming out of high school today, I have two 7-year-olds that probably know this stuff better than I do already. And I think that gives them a place to kind of have a foothold where they can kind of immediately kind of understand some of this stuff.
They're
They
comfortable with
can
it.
they're comfortable with it. Yeah. And so, you know, when, especially when some of the new software allows you to kind of click around real quick, understand things quicker, have access to things quicker. I think the you know, every generation seems to have a better handle on things like that and be adaptable to change. And this is that I think we just kind of need to lean into it and provide opportunities for people to utilize technology, whether that's day to day in the trades, whether that's construction management team, whatever it is. I think you give people the permission to kind of have ideas and experiment with what works, and you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah, because if your company is not fairly up to date with that kind of stuff, you're going to miss out on really good people because they're going to get really frustrated and impatient. They're going to see that you're not working as smart and go work for somebody else, is what we're kind of seeing.
Absolutely.
So, I guess to close things out here, let's tackle this last question. So, how do you account for these types of updates to make your job site picture perfect and a place where people want to show up when it comes to your project budgets and how you communicate with owners on why these elements are so essential into keeping the best top talent on your job sites?
So that's a pretty broad question there. So I'm gonna focus on like one or two things. One is, you know, this is something we need to be communicating about regularly. I think it's, you know, the subcontractor market as an example. They might not understand the challenges that we face. We might not understand the challenges owners face, and certainly I think, you know, the workforce and the sub market, they have challenges that I may not understand, and certainly have an idea of, but not certainly not always the full picture. And so I think that we need to continue to communicate like kind of openly about what is, you know, what are we seeing on a personal level that is preventing folks from getting into the trades, getting into our industry as a whole. The more people understand what is affecting it, whether and that may be different in different geographies, different markets.
Yeah.
The more you've got union markets, you got right to work, you've got trades that exist in certain places that don't exist elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a communication. I think that's one thing we've tried to do is have an open dialogue with our subcontractors about, you know, what are we doing well, what are we not, what is what would make you both as a company and as a representative of your workforce want to pursue our jobs more aggressively, more over someone else's. And I think as an industry, we also need to try to share those kind of lessons learned and where we've had successes. But yeah, this is certainly not going away anytime soon. And you know, I'm a big believer that these jobs are important. They create opportunities for a lot of different people, and so once they know that they exist, we can start having some traction.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you coming on this show today so much and sharing very detailed examples of what Skanska is doing and how you're helping change the culture and, you know, trying to help subs as well and taking that role. I really appreciate it. And next week we have on the show, Shelly is joining us to talk about mastering schedules and budgets with AI. So, with that, I hope you have a great day. And if anybody wants to reach out to you for more information, how would they get in touch with you, Matt?
Yeah, they can reach out to me at my email at matt.mccaffrey@skanska.com, and you can share that if you need to. But it's first name, last name at the bottom of the screen there at skanska.com.
Thank you. Well, have a great day.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
Sure. See you soon. Bye.